Now, the way that I always like to end the interviews to get wrestlers to talk about something that's not pro wrestling, and the way that we usually do that is by having them review a movie they've seen recently. Doesn't have to be
Oh,
a new movie, just something you sat down and watched recently that you'd like to talk about. So is there anything that springs to mind?
so okay. I saw a. I'm hesitating between two. There's one that I saw
You
on
could
a
talk about
plane.
you could talk about both if you want. I think Adam Copeland talked about like 3 different movies when I asked him. So go ahead and talk about both.
Okay, so recently, not recently, maybe a couple months ago, I saw The Deer Hunter for the first time, and I thought
Oh
that was one of the
wow.
greatest movies I'd ever seen. Right? Again, it's very old, but it is
Yes.
absolutely wonderful. It's fantastic. It does something that a lot of movies will do for me, which is contain a lot of Simpsons references that I will then begin to understand.
Yeah.
And
Yes, yes.
the Deer Hunter has so many of those. But on my flight to Los Angeles, on my way to Fresno, I watched a Japanese movie. Again, I'm attempting to learn Japanese. It's been a slow crawl, but I've been struggling to learn the language for many years now. And I saw a Japanese film called Crescent Moon with Cats.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. What's that about?
well, not much. There's 3 people, and there's roommates, and they love cats. And there isn't much, there isn't a lot of development in the movie. There isn't a lot of action. It just kind of goes deep on the characters and kind of says the message of the movie, which is what I love the most, which is an older, wiser character talks in the movie about how you don't need to have kids, you don't need to have a family, you don't owe, your parents' expectations of your life anything. Your only responsibility is to yourself to stay happy. And that's kind of the message of the movie, which is very nice, but it goes very deep inside the characters with not much happening, which I think is fascinating and makes it an excellent movie. A great plane movie.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to look this up because I've never even heard of this.
I think it just came out recently, but also it's in Japanese. It's from Japan, so it
Are
doesn't
you
get
a
much play
fan
in
of
the U.S.
Are you a fan of cats? Is that why you saw the title and clicked on it or something?
No, it looked nice, and again, I'm trying to learn Japanese, so I try to listen to it to as much of the language as possible, and there's a lot of great Japanese movies. They're very easy
Yes.
to find, movies and TV shows. So
Yeah,
I try
it's
to get
nice
it.
that Netflix has such a big international distribution system now because you can actually get a lot of that stuff.
I feel bad for the people who only watch, for the people in like the US and Canada who only listen to domestic films.
I honestly can't do the dub. I have to watch it in the language with subtitles because
Same.
seeing the mouth move differently and hearing a voice that doesn't sound natural to the face it's coming out of, it takes me out of the movie. I'm
So
a
coming
huge
from someone who grew up in the land of poorly dubbing movies in Quebec, where Home Alone, I had never seen Home Alone until this year
Oh wow.
because in Quebec it's called Mommy, I Missed the Plane, and it's one of those movies where the dubbing just doesn't work at all, which is the case for a lot of movies that are just, in Quebec there are French-only cinemas where they only play American movies dubbed in French.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Well, I'm a huge kung fu movie fan, so I watched so many with Chinese and Korean and Japanese dialogue that it just would seem so unnatural watching it with English over it,
Oh, so hold on, now you hit the one specific genre where I think it's okay to have a terrible dub.
Well, if you're talking about the old kung fu movies like Sammo
Yes.
Hung era, yes. That is comedic in a way that actually sort of works for it. But
Yes.
like, you know, something like Hero or House of Flying Daggers, where it's a little more artistic and high quality, you know, you sort of want to hear Michelle Yeoh speaking in
Right. Yeah.
Vietnamese, not like you know what? She might dub herself in English for all I know. I've never listened to it, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. But yeah,
That often makes good. So there's a lot of good dubs, and I want to talk about the movie Slapshot, if we may. I know we're getting
oh no,
extremely
let's
far from
talk about
professional wrestling.
Slapshot. Let's talk about
Okay,
Slapshot.
so the movie Slapshot is incredibly popular in Quebec because, and I was just talking about this with my wife the other day. The movie Slapshot is incredibly popular in Quebec because, of course, it's a hockey movie,
Sure.
right? And a lot of the movies that are dubbed, they either get dubbed in French from France, or they get dubbed in Quebec, but in French that has kind of a more international, like milder kind of flavor to it. But Slapshot, because it's a hockey movie, they just went all in on it's old Quebec slang French, and it is incredibly vulgar. I mean, the dubbing itself is even more vulgar than the actual movie. And it's a cult classic in Quebec for that reason. And the quotes, like I heard quotes from the movie for my whole life before I watched it, but it is incredibly popular because of the dub. And that's very interesting.
That's
to
so
me.
funny.
Probably not to your listeners who just heard me talk about Slapshot for
Honestly,
10
no, I
minutes
can,
in an interview
I
about
can
pro
guarantee
wrestling.
you, like, after listening to this, there's going to be a dozen people at least who probably go run to YouTube or wherever they can try and find a French dubbed version of this.
Well, if you've ever wondered what
yeah.
does Quebec French sound like authentically, go listen to the French Canadian dubbed version of Slapshot.
All right. Well, I think that's the quote I'm going to end the article on.